Hi, I hope everybody's having a wonderful day today. This is Patricia. For those who are new, last week I talked about a couple of the fruits of the Spirit. I started off with unconditional love. Love is the first fruit of the Spirit, joy, and then peace last week. And today I'm talking about the fourth fruit of the Spirit, which is patience. The fruits of the Spirit, for those who don't know, are in Galatians chapter 5, and it's verse 22, and it says, and this is the modern English version of the Bible. It's a little different in the NIV and some of the other versions. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and self-control. Against such there is no law. And once again, that's Galatians 5:22. Now, for me, patience is one of those things that God has slowly developed in me over a lifetime. It is not one of my favorites. If there's one thing I never used to be and I still struggle with it, is patience. God's timing is definitely not mine. I find that God is a lot more patient than I am. That's just it. The fruit of the Spirit is something that the Holy Spirit, as we grow in God, will develop in us. And each one of the fruits of the Spirit builds on the other, starting with love, and once again, joy, peace, and so on, all the way to self-control, which is another one I find extremely hard, at least in certain areas. I know we all struggle with one thing. But the one thing about God, I mentioned that God's timing is not my timing. That is very true. But I also know this: God is never late. He may not be early, but he's always right on time. And I have had him work on my lives and demonstrate that more times than I could ever care to remember. But before I go any further, let me define patience. According to Google, patience is defined as the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. Yeah, that one's a challenge. But it also says in chapter 13 of Hebrews, verse 5, let your lives be without love of money, and be content with the things you have, for he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. No matter how impatient you are, no matter how badly you might think you're behaving, no matter what's going on in your life, he's never going to leave you. He's never going to forsake you. He's never going to leave you in the lurch. He is always going to be there for you. There's a saying that God has 3 answers to prayer: yes, no, and wait. I think wait is the one that's hardest sometimes, but it's a process. Patience is a process, and our faith in God is a process. And once we're saved, God's going to develop that in us over time. And God always has a purpose. But there is a saying, be careful what you pray for, you just may get it, and patience is one of those things. I find that with patience, God just doesn't give me patience like I would like, but usually I have to go through something in order to develop it. Like driving in traffic, with people cutting you off. I'm from the Seattle area originally, and traffic up there can be horrendous. Some of you who live in larger cities like LA, Chicago, New York, I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm talking about. That is one of those things that God will use to develop patience if you let him. But there's a saying I found, and it's an acronym for the letters in the word patience. P is for prayer, perseverance, and poise. A is for amiable, attitude in check, and able to bear affliction. T is for tolerance. I is for imperturbable, in order, injuring none. E is for endurance, encouraging to others. N is for not irritable or not anxious. C is composed, calm, and constant. And E is for even-tempered and equanimity. In Philippians 4:5 says, let your forbearing spirit be known to all men, the Lord is near. One thing I try to do is always remember that the Lord is right there. And for me, that does help. That helps a lot. That helps me remain calm and composed, although that is definitely not something I do all the time. I do have my moments, my outbursts, when I get frustrated, especially, I think is one of the big ones. But it's a lifetime process. God will continue to develop us and work in us, and you don't have to worry about him leaving you. Like he said, he will never leave you nor forsake you. He's not just going to leave you in the lurch. No matter how God works in your life, what you have to go through to develop patience, It is something that will always pay off in your relationships, and especially your relationship with God, your spouse, your kids, or your parents, your friends. Patience is one of those things that really helps show the love of God to other people. Being able to endure trials, that is a witness. None of us want to go through it, but if you're going to go through it, you might as well do it in a way that's going to honor God and be a witness to others. God called us to shine our light, to be a light to others, and that's one way we can do it. And not just with patience, but with the other fruits of the Spirit. So just something to think on. I will put the link for my website. For those who don't know, I do have a devotional book out, a brand new one. It's called Finding Peace in Jesus, an Encouraging 30-Day Devotional, and it is free. I will put a link for it below. And if you get that for a limited time, you also get a link to my other devotional, which will also be 2 free. So you actually get 2 free books. But at any rate, I hope you have a blessed day. If you're liking these videos, just hit subscribe. Thank you, and God bless.